Hi, Phil, and welcome
Hello.
to Product of the Working Class Fella. How are you doing this morning?
Thanks, Kelvin. I'm doing well, thank you very much. Yeah, very warm and sunny. So yeah, happy and relaxed. All is good in the world.
I'm glad
Well,
all is good. I'm
for the
glad all
most
is
part.
good. Yeah, as well as
In
we can
insert
expect.
obvious moments,
Yes, indeed, and indeed. So obviously you're back in the UK, getting ready to for the Wayward Sons shows, which is amazing.
yeah, get our rock trousers back on at long last.
Bring it on.
Yeah,
It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
yeah.
So, have you had to? So, regarding the shows, just we'll just touch on that quickly. Have you had to bring? Because I know obviously you've moved out to Portugal. Have you had to bring your gear back over? Has that been had to be shipped, or has it stayed in the
No,
UK?
no. I left a kit in like a whole kit, the one I used for Wayward Sons. That's here. So just pick that up and knock it into shape. Yeah, that's that Ludwig Vista Light, that really cool swirly like candy cane they call it.
It does
Um,
look nice.
it's just a flipping amazing drum kit. Um, so it's yeah, it's pretty special. And I've got a drum kit out in Portugal, which I'll just stay there,
Yeah,
for practicing and whatever bits and pieces I do from there. I'm building a little studio out there, so in time I hopefully have a full recording setup. But you know, piece by piece, little by little.
mate. It all has to come slowly, slowly. I think.
Yeah,
And
it does
gradually.
out there. I mean, everything's so slow in Portugal. It's just a different way of life. If you want to get a man round to fix your blah blah blah, it doesn't happen like it happens in England. It's you might get an answer in like 4 weeks, and then he can come around next month, and then that's like so it's a very different experience. But anyway, yeah.
Fair enough,
So
man.
I've got kit here, and that's going to be you know fired up properly next week.
Awesome, awesome.
God,
I'm looking
at
for. I'm looking.
last.
Yeah, I know. I mean, have you missed? Because obviously, I know whether you've moved and everything like that. Has it been? Have you been hankering to get back behind that kit? You know.
Yeah, yeah, I really have. It's just, I mean, I haven't had that much time to think about things because it's when you move countries, there's a lot to sort of adjust to. But I don't care what sort of setup it is, just to get together with the band you're playing and play. I mean, that's what I miss. Even just miss rehearsing. I mean, gigs are a bonus, but even just rehearsing with the fellas is just I can't wait for that. It's something
It,
that we all were doing so regularly, or most people are doing regularly if you're lucky, and then to have that taken away and then just be dormant for a year and a half, it's just horrible.
yeah.
So everyone's had a right old time of it,
It's
but
been.
we'll
It's
come
been.
back stronger.
Yes, I think so, and I think especially the world of rock music that we're involved in. I think where there's this a real camaraderie. I think amongst rock bands and guys involved in it. I really do. I was talking to Darby Todd earlier on in the week, and he was saying to me how he'd been asked to step in for Devin Townsend, which was amazing, and he was telling me about that and just how little opportunities have happened for him that might not have necessarily
Yeah.
come about if all of this hadn't have gone on. So as much as it's been
Mm,
hard work in so many different ways, whether it be
mm,
mentally, whether it be physically, whether it be financially, actually there's other doors that have opened, and
yeah.
I think that's it. And I think you really start to realize who you can trust, who your friends are. Those
I
it's all,
think I
all
think
about that.
and particularly with like international artists, because the implications and costs of getting into England. I mean, there's hardly I don't think there's any international artists playing these festivals. I think it's all English or UK
Mm.
for the most part because it's just too expensive and too much hassle to get people in and out at the moment.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's hard work. It's really hard. I mean, I know when I spoke to Darby earlier in the week, like I said, he was having to self isolate because he just got back from Sweden. So
Mm,
he was talking to me a little bit about how that's affected him. Which was, but I think it's all about moving forward and in the best possible way where everyone can do what they need to do and still remain safe. I think that's what we've got
yeah,
to all got to take that on board. You know.
you have.
Right, fella. So
Yeah.
let's get now we've talked about COVID. We can move on to the real stuff, and we can talk about drums.
Phew.
Whew, yeah, that's that bit done. Let's start right at the beginning and how you got into playing the drums, influences, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, like most kids, just I was really young when I got into music, and I started buying singles when I was like 5.5 or something. Six years old, and just watching Top the Pops and what was on Saturday morning programs, and all these bands that were playing. I mean, I grew up in the early '80s, and the bands that were around then, it's such a wide range and fantastic amounts of diverse styles around, and I was just soaked up in that. And my dad provided me with, he had like some, he built me a stereo, so like separates, like
Nice.
maybe an amp from his friend and a set of speakers someone at work had, and he just put me together this thing with a radio and a tape recorder, so I could tape the top 40,
I
which was
remember
just
that.
it was very instrumental, because I could just listen, tape that, and listen along to it, and then you just start soaking stuff up as a kid. 6 years old, you're a sponge, and then you start like the visual aspect of it, watching these bands until the pops, you just like mind is blown by it, and and then I started building little drum kits out of, I don't know, Tupperware and whatever it is knocking around the house. You make these things up, and just started playing along to these songs that I taped, or the radio, or my imagination and stuff, and that was it. That was just happening without me even knowing it. You don't even know what you're doing at that age. You're just happening, aren't you? And I figured it out. I figured out how to, by watching the bands, the drummers play on Top of the Pops, figured out what they're doing with their hands. And but it was maybe when I was about 9.5, 3 years later, something like that, I started having lessons, and I had a fantastic teacher as well, who became like a bit of an uncle sort of fellow, and yeah, he was a wonderful man, and yeah, I had a great, from that side of things, it was musical childhood was pretty amazing. But the bands I was into as a kid pretty much centered around like the Stray Cats, Duran Duran, the Police, Adam and the Ants, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, because it's top 40 stuff,
Yeah.
but they all had really different quirks to them, and I still love all that music, and get off on all those records still.
Yeah. I mean, it's
So
cool.
they sunk into a 6-year-old, and they still mean a lot now. So that's cool.
And I think that's really important. And I think one of the things I talk to some of my drummers about, is about those early influences into music.
Mm.
I mean, for like yourself, for me, when I started playing the drums, I was a bit of a late bloomer into it. I was sort of 16, but I grew up listening to Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard and Bon Jovi. It was just rife with all of that. It was just this fruitful tree of just amazing talent, and
big slamming rock. Yeah.
Oh, I loved it, and it's the big fat snare and those huge drum. Oh my god, I couldn't get enough of it. And I still love that now, and I go back to that every time. And it's interesting. I was talking to Shutter, who used to play with Terrorvision a few weeks ago, and we were having a bit of a laugh and a thing about getting one of your mates to buy a record because it was their turn, and then you get your C90 tape and you record it, And I think there's a real, and I know you can relate to that. And I think when you can relate to those sorts of things, you really start to appreciate the value of music. Whereas, like these days, with the streaming and everything like that, it's so throwaway. Everyone can go, oh, I just have a listen. If I don't like it, don't worry. Whereas, back in the like 80s, early 90s, you had to invest your cash in, otherwise, you couldn't hear it, could you?
Well, it's infinite options to anyone who chooses to, scour the net for music. It's just like, you don't even have to do anything. It makes your mind up for you. But when I was a kid, it's like probably similar for you. It's like way obviously a long time pre-mobiles, even more pre-internet. But a glimpse of something on the television, if you're lucky, if you get to watch the telly, one night a week or whatever.
Yeah.
On Top of the Pops, whatever it is, on Saturday morning, or you hear something on the radio, and it's that you might be able to grab a tape and record it. You might miss it, and it's that, like, those moments meant so much. But now it's saturated. You can find anything at any time, anywhere. So it's a very different world to soak up information.
Absolutely.
Don't know what's better. It's like everything's got its pros and cons. But it certainly felt like it meant so much to me. Music as a child, and that hasn't changed. That's led me on the path. So
Mm. Oh,
I
I totally
guess
get.
yeah.
Man, I get it. I get it, and I get the passion and the love for it. So obviously, you mentioned the Police. Has Stuart Copeland been a bit of an influence on you in your drumming?
Oh yeah. I mean, you probably wouldn't know it. Like there's a Spitfire flying over. How cool is that? I'm just down near Goodwood. Anyway, sorry for the interjection.
That's cool.
Um,
It's
yeah,
Sir Bruce
yeah,
Dickinson over the
Copeland blew
flag.
my mind. Sorry, Copeland blew my mind as a child. Yeah, I bought quite a few Police singles, and yeah, that band had a fantastic sound. Obviously, they're a series of just killer songs. So
Mm.
they're going to get in the top 10, and 6, 7 year olds are going to find out about it if they want to. But yeah, it's just special. I'm just an unbelievable drummer. He just got that thing, and he slams it. He hits it hard. He's just his spirit. Like a determined, or he was a determined and energetic, intellectual young man. But he would really lay in. You find old footage now of the Police playing in 1980, and he's digging the hell out of them drums. So, but it's them sounds he's got. It's so exciting to see his drum kit, a picture of his drum kit, or a glimpse of it in a video. It's just like, what is that? I want that. I want to understand it. I don't understand it, but I want to understand it. And then,
Yeah.
then the next thing up is like Adam the Ants. They've got 2 drummers, and my head is just, it's just exploding. And then you've got this cool band called Duran Duran. He just look the part, and got like a really, like Roger Taylor's, like he doesn't really get spoken about. He's a great drummer. I mean,
Yeah.
both Roger Taylors are great drummers, actually. Let's not
Yeah,
forget.
fair play. Yeah, I got some interest. It's some funny stories have cropped
If
up
your name's
about.
Roger Taylor, you're a great drummer, it seems.
And you wear white trainers, even if you got a suit
Yeah,
on.
yeah. So but yeah, Copeland's a legend. And then, I mean, also around that time, Clive Burr was playing for Iron Maiden. So
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
Run to the Hills was a hit around that time, and
Yeah.
that guy, he's one of my favorite drummers. I mean, I'm not a big metaler, to be honest, but I don't think Maiden were much of a metal band in them days. It's like, but
Oh,
Clive
no
Burr
way.
he's up there to me
And
with the
it,
best.
yeah,
His
and he,
phrasing and the way he goes about his choices is just fucking amazing. Sorry for the swear.
no, that's cool. And I was literally about to say that, and I think because he had a bit of a jazz background, I think Clive, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah. From what I saw an interview with Bruce Dickinson a little while ago. It was essentially the story of Iron Maiden, and they were kind of talking to all of the guys that have been a part of it, right back to Dennis Stratton and
Mm-hmm.
obviously Paul Di'Anno and all the guys that kind of right before, even before Bruce started and Nico joined, and that lineup that we've got now that everyone kind of knows.
Yeah.
And they were saying that Clive just had a different feel behind the kit
Oh,
than some of the other guys, and I know. It was just really interesting to hear them talking about. And Dave Murray was saying in particular, he was just had this. It's like, wow, not heard that before. It was kind of what,
mm,
rather than it being this straight groove, there was something else in it that
yeah.
lifted it and took it in a different direction. And I think that's the majesty of the drums, And I think depending on how you play it, or how you apply it, or where you apply it, just changes it. And
I mean, Run
that's
to the Hills is a great example. You go listen to the drum part in that thing.
oh, it's
He's
amazing.
playing like super fast sixteenths in this kind of like loud, heavy rock, metal, punk, whatever band it was.
Yeah.
It's like an unusual thing to go for, but it's brilliant.
But it worked, and this is the thing, and
Yeah.
I think that's why that Number of the Beast album is just such an iconic album.
Mm, mm.
And there's some amazing songs on that. Even if
Yeah.
you go
I
in
mean,
delving.
Martin Birch is a killer producer. I mean, he really on Killers as well, the album before.
Yeah, yeah,
He really got the best out of the sound and Clive Burr, but Clive Burr's got his own sound anyways. So.
absolutely, it's just brilliant. And I love
And
the fact
a
you.
Tama and Peisty guy as well, like
Yeah,
Copeland.
yeah.
Good mix.
It is a good mix, and I think this is it because actually Nico uses Peisty cymbals, doesn't he? He's
Hmm.
got I think he must have an endorsement or something with them, but I know he's been using them for a long time. I saw an interview with him where he was doing a tour of the Peisty factory and showing them making one of his ride cymbals, which is just amazing.
That's cool, isn't it?
It's so cool, so cool. I love it.
Sweet.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Right, so we kind of Duran Duran, Adam and the Ants and all of that's kind of blowing your
Yeah.
brains.
Well,
And
I'll tell you what I did have as well was a great record. It was an album by Status Quo called Just Supposing, which is like I think
I
1980 or
love I
81.
love some Quo.
But that had a couple of hits, so I got to know about Quo. But my dad, as I mentioned again, was he used to work in Holborn in London, and there was a record library somewhere around that area at the time. So I'd ask him for, can I have this and this, please? And he'd go and hire them from the just as you
Amazing.
would a book, a library, and bring them home, and I could record them onto cassette.
Yeah,
Sorry, music industry, for being a naughty boy, breaking the rules. And then he'd take them back, and then I'd have the albums to listen to on the cassette and learn, and play along to. And that
amazing.
album by Status Quo and John Coughlin,
That
he's
guy's
another
amazing.
super drummer. His
He is.
feel, the
Oh,
groove of that guy,
just
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and it's not overly complicated, but it's just that you're right. It's the feel. I was lucky enough to meet John about 4 years ago. At
Mm,
a local festival. He actually doesn't live that far from me, and
yeah,
um, and he's just such a legend. Just love talking to him about the whole thing with the Frantic Four. When they were
yeah,
really
yeah.
kicking. Ah, amazing. Just loved it. Just could have talked to him for hours. But
Oh, I do all that stuff. I mean, yeah. So I was banging into his playing on that record. It's kind of tough as well. It's not just the kind of shuffle thing. It's some tough rock playing or some
yeah.
cool ideas. I recommend it for any interested drummers. Just supposing
That what a
by
what a
Status
tune!
Quo.
What a tune! And that actual song is just brilliant, isn't it?
Oh,
But
you mean what you're proposing?
what you're proposing, that song is
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
phenomenal
Oh,
song.
fuck it, amazing, amazing.
Yeah,
His
you
drumming on
got
that is a beaut.
oh
His feel and phrasing is wonderful. And but you know what? Something's really cool. I mean, a couple of cool things happened. I used to be in a band called Tokyo Dragons, and I was playing along to Quo Live, right? Practicing, just
yeah.
get your shuffles up and just have a practice and just get your thing going. And I got a phone call, and it was like the manager saying, "Oh, we've just got the support tour with Status Quo for 10 shows, like
Oh
early next
man,
year."
how
So I was playing
cool
along
is
to
it?
this stuff, and then I got that call. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!"
That's sick. That's so
We used to
cool. I love
listen to
it.
that in the tour bus as well, and
Oh,
and then
brilliant.
a few years later, I was in France. I was playing with the choir boys, and John Coughlin's Quo were on the bill, and
Right.
he had no drums and cymbals with him. I can't remember why, but he asked me, "Can I use your kit?" And I was like, "You can use my kit, cymbals and snare and all." I was like, "Mate, you get on there because I'm very humbled by this moment." So he used my whole setup at that for his gig, playing all those
Wicked.
Quo songs
Uh,
on my stuff. So I was like,
That's amazing.
"Wow!"
What a story. I love the story. That's what it's
And it was
about.
like, yeah, and it was like I had big like 2002 Peisty cymbals, and the kit was like a 26 kick with 14 and 16, 18 floor toms. So it's not that. It's pretty much the sizes he would have used back in the day.
Mm.
So he kind of took to it like duck to water, and I was just like, I don't have any footage of it anymore. I had some crappy phone. I took a bit of a video, but
Mm.
I don't know where that phone is anymore. So, but that's a pretty
Wow.
cool moment.
They're,
That's
they're,
pretty cool.
they are moments forged in time, I think,
Mm,
and they
mm,
they they mean so much
yeah,
when certain things happen. And I love the connections. This is one of the things that's happened out of these series of podcasts so far. There seems to have been this thread that has come through the guys I've talked to about who they're influenced by or who they've met or so and I genuinely love the way there is this, like I said, this connection with everybody. I think it's great.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
love that. Love it.
Things go around, don't they? They have a habit of
Yeah.
nice things happen sometimes like that.
Mm. And
Yeah, you're right. There's lots of instances you hear people talking about things. You're like, oh, that's so good. It's meant to be sort of moment.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was talking to Darby earlier on the week, and he said to me that he was touring with the Darkness, and they were doing some gig in Milan, and they just finished their set, and Motley Crue were playing on the same bill, and he looked
Mm,
over to his left-hand side of the stage, and Tommy
yeah.
Lee stood in the wings watching him play.
Oh
I'm like,
God,
oh
I
my
mean,
god,
Tommy Lee's such a drummer that I'd be like, oh, please don't watch anymore. Go away.
I can't live up to that.
Yeah, I mean that's like that's quite it's quite a person to have watching you because he's one hell of a drummer. I mean, a live drummer. Jesus Christ, he's amazing.
He's just something else. He
He
is
is
something else.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
He really is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we hear the stories about Tommy Lee and this and that, and the way he runs his life. But as a drummer, flip a neck,
And I think that's
outrageously talented.
and I think that's it, Phil. I think as we, if we just talking about him as a drummer, the guy's just legendary, really,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
how he is. His style, a lot. I think it's just,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's
just,
unbelievable.
it is brilliant. He's brilliant.
So gifted.
Oh, definitely, definitely, without a doubt, and makes things look so easy. And I think
Mm.
and I think that's the thing when you can make the technical things look simple and
Yeah.
effortless. That's just you've got someone looking down on you from upstairs, I think. So obviously Tokyo Dragons. What happened? What was happening after that then? So you kind of on your journey.
Yes, I mean, I played in all various sort of bands, I was younger and that, as you do. The guy I was in Tokyo Dragons with, Steve. We were in a band together in the early '90s, like a power trio with our other friend Steve on bass, and we got a deal and we made a few records and stuff, and played some cool shows. There was a really good live scene at the very beginning of the '90s, actually. A lot of because it was that kind of indie thing going on. A lot of American bands, from Mudhoney to
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
sorts, Surge Overkill. Tons of these bands were coming over, and we got loads of cool shows because we had the guy who was looking after us ended up starting Domino Records, which became a
Oh,
massive
okay.
label.
Yeah.
Lawrence Bell, and he kind of guided us a bit and got some really cool shows, and we had a brilliant time. And then we kind of, after that sort of petered out, that band sort of finished, and we sort of tried a few other things for a while. We got into MC5 and the Stooges in a big way, and New York Dolls, and along with Kiss, and plus with loads of like heavier
Mhm.
bands like Motorhead and Thin Lizzy. And we thought, let's just do a band that's got like that kick-ass energy, like MC5 or something.
Yeah,
We just
amazing.
got into that. We got into that sort of vibe, and the Tokyo Dragons was sort of built on that. And we got a friend in on second guitar, or we could also play lead, and a bass player called Adrian. And yeah, we did well. We made a couple of really cool records, and we toured with all. There was a great rock scene actually, at the very end of the '90s, but the early noughties. And the kind of the papers and the mags just didn't latch onto it, more for them because they were just too into their classic rock. But there was, there's bands like the Super Suckers, Nashville Pussy, Danko Jones, Turbo Negro,
Yeah.
Helicopters, um, tons of these bands like from Europe and America who were coming over and playing, and they were just and Rocket from the Crypt, that was sort of going down.
Yeah.
All these great rock bands, but no one's really writing about them that much. But we got to ended up touring with nearly all of those bands with Tokyo Dragons,
Awesome.
and playing shows with them, and that was a really good time. And it was in the wake of the darkness, so that bands like that had a chance to get a deal.
Mm.
So I have to give like credence to the darkness there, but which I happily do because I think they're fab. But
They are awesome.
so that but that kind of, and that band sort of ran it. We ended up signing with a label, and they lost their money, and that meant that they couldn't distribute our second album in Europe, that we couldn't tour, and all the doors started closing, and we were like, do you know what, just chuck it on the head, just
Mm.
leave it for a while, and we all moved on to other things. So I got into the Choir Boys,
Love the choir boys.
pretty soon after that ended. That was fabulous. Played with those guys for a couple of years, and had some brilliant times, and played some really cool gigs, and they're a great band,
Yeah, Spike,
and it,
Spike and Nigel, nice guys, aren't they?
yeah, they're all excellent. Nigel lives in the States, I believe.
Yeah, I think he
Um,
does. Yeah.
he was sort of when I was playing with him, he kind of just about left, I think, at that
Right.
point. I mean, like Choir Boys got quite a revolving door of bass players and drummers,
Mm.
for various reasons. But yeah, I learned a lot from playing with those guys and had a great time. So
And that first record of theirs, it's just such a great album. Such a great
brilliant
album.
record,
Oh my
classic.
god.
Yeah, yeah.
Songs like Hey You, 7 o'clock.
Mm.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
it's
just
just got
that. Oh,
it's got
great.
great songs on it.
I just love it. And again,
Whipping Boy is really cool.
oh
Isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So such cool tracks and things
Yeah, I
like
love playing all that.
yeah. And I mean, I remember I was really into the Black Crows around that time as well, and it
Mm.
was very similar vibe. That kind of bluesy but cool rock
Yeah,
thing that was going. I loved it. Loved it.
yeah. It's like piano-driven rock and roll, in a sense,
Yeah,
isn't it?
amazing. And
Sort
yeah,
of on
and
the
I think
coattails of the Faces, really, I suppose, and Mott the Hoople.
very much so. And and the voices, as in Spike's voice is very similar. It had that gravel to it, didn't it? You know,
Yeah,
and that's what I love about his vocals. It's just
yeah, it's
amazing.
outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a great showman. He's got it. He's got it. And
yeah,
like
that's cool.
they're really good players. They got a great groove. So yeah.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I've seen them live a few times, and I'm going back to when they were right at in their heyday. You know, back at the
Mm.
beginning of it all, when they were getting a lot of notice, and I just, I was blown away by their stage presence because it was
Mm.
stripped back and simple, but at the same time, it was in your face and just you couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah,
Love it.
very
Just
cool.
yeah, damn straight, damn straight. So that was quite a cool experience then playing for the choir boys. What kind of
Yeah.
So I know you are a busy man. I know some of the guys you've played with, and I think it's just amazing to be able to go. Yeah, I've played with them.
Well, that led on to that Down and Outs project because there was a mutual friend between the choir boys and Joe Elliott, and he was a fellow called Mick Brown who probably still does look after Ian Hunter. But in 2009, Mott the Hoople, I think it was something crazy like 40 years since they played a show,
Wow.
and they did like 4 or 5 shows at Hammersmith Odeon, and they wanted, because like Joe Elliott's been such a sort of vocal ambassador for Mott the Hoople,
Mm.
apparently, in interviews and everything, they
He
wanted
does
him
talk about
to be
yeah.
involved. Yeah, he loves them, and so he suggested, well, look, if you need to put a band together, I know the guys in the choir boys would suit it because it's very similar. It comes from a similar place,
Yeah.
and it's kind of quickly happened from there. He's like, okay, let's just do it, and he just sent a song list of all these like obscure Mott the Hoople or spin-off, so Mott and Ian Hunter stuff that he wanted to play that the Mott the Hoople never would have played at those shows, and we ended up getting it together, and we played the last night, opening for Mott the Hoople at Hammersmith, which
Amazing.
was just flipping great experience, and the rehearsals were good fun, and like everything like that with Joe and blah blah blah, and he was so happy with how the gig went. He said, "Oh, let's not leave it. Let's go and record it and put an album out." We're like, "Oh, great, fantastic."
Yeah.
So we did that, and then that went really well, and the singles and the videos did well, and particularly in the US, it did really well over there. And he was like, "Okay, well let's think about doing a second record." A couple of years later, we did that, and so that every few years we've done a couple of tours, and then every few years the thing comes around, and we've made a third album a couple of years back, and that was all Joe Elliott originals rather than being like Mott the Hoople
Yeah,
related stuff.
I was gonna say that. I thought it probably was, and but
Yeah,
I love. He's such a driven guy
yeah.
in what he wants to do. He never sits still.
No,
You know,
you're quite right. He is non-stop.
he's just on the go the whole time. I mean,
Yeah,
and it's
he's coming
interesting.
from a great place with him. He's like you'd hope him to be.
Yeah, I mean
He's
I mean,
really, really interested in things and just wants to get on with things and just do it. He's up for it.
and I love that, and it's great hearing you talking about that.
Yeah.
When I was talking to Shutty a few weeks ago, and we were talking to they toured with Def Leppard back in '96 on their European tour when they were doing Slang, and he said it
Right.
was just one of the best experiences of his
Oh, great.
career. They
Brilliant.
did like 8 weeks in Europe, they did 2 weeks in the
Wow.
UK, and he just said it was just
Oh,
exceptional. I mean, what a privilege to be asked to do that. You know.
yeah. Oh man, it'd be amazing.
And he cracked me up because he said Rick Allen came and sat behind his kit at one of the shows, and he said he played it better with one arm than he could with both, which did make me laugh. But he said he got to
Yes,
sit behind,
great.
and he got to sit behind Rick's kit during sound check, and he said it was just I sat behind the Def Leppard kit.
Mm.
He said if I don't do anything else, I've made it, and I think this is it.
Yeah.
We talk about those opportunities and things that happen, and you think, wow, yeah, what a
Oh, I just thought of a really cool thing actually.
go
It
on.
just reminded me. The Down and Outs did a show in Sheffield City Hall. It was to commemorate like a really important DJ of that, local fella who was a DJ who supported all the local bands in the 80s. For like Human League, Def Leppard, obviously.
Yeah,
Any bands from that area. And so there's a concert. So Down and Out's played part of that. But Rick Savage played bass for that show.
Oh man, how cool
So
is
that
that?
was, and we did a cover of Animals. I was like, fucking hell, I'm playing Animal here with with Rick and Joe. This is cool. I'm the rhythm section.
How surreal is that,
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
mate? That's amazing. And
Mm.
those little
I got
gems.
to sing the harmonies on the chorus with Joe as well. So that's like, this is
Oh,
awesome.
that's just wicked.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good one.
No.
Oh
Definitely
yeah,
two.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
two. Right.
right,
Yeah.
adding to you said about the Tommy Lee watching from the side of the stage.
Yes, mate. Yeah.
Well, Kiss were playing in probably like the arena on the night before or the night after. So there was Gene Simmons and I think it was Tommy Taya
Yeah. Yeah.
at
Tommy
the side
Taylor,
of the
the good singing
stage.
guitarist.
Like,
Yeah.
and I remember we were playing this gig and like we opened the set with "Love Lies Bleeding" by Elton John, and which is a 9 minute epic. It's a
Yeah.
pretty tricky number to like have down. And I remember like looking into or singing into the microphone on my left and like looking past that, and there's Gene Simmons, arms folded, staring straight back at me. I was like, oh please, I'm under enough pressure here with this song as it is, and you're like just watching me dead eyes. I was like, oh my god,
That is like
he's,
it's rock royalty.
it was great, but I was also like, oh, do me a favor,
It's that
don't need the
pressure.
pressure, boy. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, to deliver.
Luckily it went well, so it was all right.
That's insane. I mean, I'm Kiss are one of my favourite bands. I've seen them I've seen them 4 or 5 times, and
Yeah, yeah,
can't wait to see them again. Download with Wayward Sons next year. Can't
yeah.
wait for. I
Oh yeah,
can't
of
wait,
course.
mate. I can't
Good
wait for that.
point. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. And
Mm,
Maiden are playing as well. So it's going to be just going to be a phenomenal.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I just love how you're saying about way the doors have opened and like one thing has led to you to be able to do this and so on. And I think that's just great.
Mm.
So how did it come about working with Toby and Wayward Sons? How was that? Did that become a thing?
Well, he remembered that Down and Out. There's a festival, but I think it was Classic Rock Magazine called the High Voltage Festival in London, Victoria Park,
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
few years, and Down and Out's played it one time, and he saw that show, and I bumped into him once or twice here and there as well, but basically I came into his mind happily when he was, given this sort of opportunity to get a deal with this Italian label Frontiers, and they wanted him to make some records instead of being a producer. And he was like, took a bit of arm twisting, but he got into the idea and had to put a band together. And yeah, and he just gave me a call, said, "Look, what do you reckon?" I was like, he said sort of the kind of style he wanted to go for, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm up for that." We met for coffee one time in London, and got on really well. And that was it. Next time I saw him was in a rehearsal studio.
amazing,
Yeah, and
amazing.
it was one of the best chemistry bonding of like musicians I've ever had. An instant sort of vibe, and I've never met Nick, the bass player, and Sam, the guitar player, and Nick has been around for a while. He's played with Cray Molly and stuff, and
Mm.
Sam was like relatively experienced as like a player, but he certainly could play the guitar very well. So the four of us were there, and it just within like a couple of hours, I was like, man, this is going to happen. I can feel it. And I think we had 2.5 days in a rehearsal studio. And I think we came out of it with what ended up being 7 songs that made it to the first album. Just over that weekend. It was pretty phenomenal.
Amazing. I love the first
Yeah,
album. I gotta say,
yeah, I do.
I think
Yeah,
it's
it's pretty
brilliant.
cool, man. Yeah, I like it a
It's
lot.
got such a great energy, and
Mm.
I was just really excited. Firstly, really, it was because obviously Toby had got a new project together. So for me, it was like because I was a massive lover of the Little Angels back in the late '80s, early '90s. I just loved them, and
Mm.
I only ever got to see them once because I grew up down in Cornwall, so they never came beyond Newport until this one
Yeah.
on the Jam tour. They hit Plymouth, and it's like, oh my god, I've got to go and see them play. It was like a Sunday night or something. But I was like, I'm not gonna miss this, and it's just still what probably goes down as one of the best gigs I've ever seen.
Oh,
And
brilliant. I'll tell him
yeah,
that. He'll be
yeah,
well chuffed.
please, yeah. I found a picture of the gig ticket when I sent a photograph of it to him the other day, and he had a
Mm.
he had a bit of a giggle over it because, yeah, and it was they did it the day after they'd filmed a video for Sail Away. They'd done it in Bude, and then they went and did the gig in Plymouth the following day. So they were all absolutely
Lovely.
hanging because of they'd been up in the evening, because they went. But it's brilliant, just so good,
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, so I
So
was,
cool.
yeah, man, it is, and I was like so excited that they were that, like I said, Toby was doing this new project, and then when I heard the
Mm.
lead single come off of the first album, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to, can't wait for this to come out, and I was so chuffed with it. It's just like, oh yeah, and put it on, just had it on repeat for ages. It's just, yeah, it's brilliant, love it.
Until the end.
Absolutely, oh mate, it's just great.
It's great, isn't it? It's a special thing, yeah. I mean, it's cool. I did a sort of the verses are really unusual. There's like a pedal note on the bass, just holds down the note. I don't know if it's what note it is. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. We're talking about drums here, and it
Yeah, we
reminded
are.
me. Yeah, it reminded me of because I've always obviously been a Keith Moon admirer and like what he does, and if you ever listen to Who Live at Leeds, you just can't be just amazed by what that guy was up to, and his phrasing and everything, and the kind of things he put in. But I was like, hold a minute, this pedal note reminds me of the Who, and Entwistle would sometimes play a same note through a section. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go on the toms and just thump the bass drum on eighths and just let go on these verses. And no one said anything. I was like, cool, and that just stuck. So that's a lot of fun to play that. It's
Yeah.
just, there's no set pattern really. It's just a rough idea of what I'm doing in that song, and I like that.
Yeah, no,
Not a great deal, but a little bit.
but I think this
Yeah,
thing.
great.
One of the things I love about your drumming, and I've been listening. I've been listening to the new songs off of the new album which is coming out, and there's I particularly love the even up the score. I love that song, and I love that groove you put into that. That's just, it's like full on right from the get go, and I just think it just sets the tone so well. I love it.
Yeah, it came out well, that song. You're right. It's got a real good beefiness to it. It's kind of energetic, and but it's not like chaos as well.
And I think that's it.
It's got a bit of space in there, but
yeah, it's controlled chaos. I think that's probably a way of looking at it. But it fits all the where it needs to go, and it's really driving, and it just sits in there in the pocket, and it's just awesome. It's a really nice. It's an earworm, is the way I look at it. I think it's
good. Good news.
Yeah,
that's nice to know.
Yeah, no.
We went at a lot of material when we were in the process of starting the second album, and the idea was to record enough for 2 albums, and then put them out a year apart from each other on the same date, which is a cool concept. Things got in the way of that ultimately, but we still went out so much material on the sessions for that second album. We probably lost our way a bit because it was just so much material, and it was like every day I was like, I'd got to this routine. I'd be up at the same time, have a proper breakfast, and be at the drum store ready to track like every day at like 10:30, like until it was done. And we recorded like 25, 30 songs. It's just insane in a short space of time. So but that one didn't make the second album, but it was recorded. Did we? It was tracked at that time. All apart from 3 songs were tracked in that same sessions.
Wow.
So so that shit, that's been waiting around, and it's kind of, we listened to this stuff in lockdown actually, which is a funny thing. It's like, all right, everything's stopped, what we're going to do, and we kind of dug out these songs we hadn't listened to for a year, and Tobe sent a few over, and we're like, fucking hell, we've got an EP here. And then it was like, hold a minute, we've got an album here of like 10 or 12 like really good tunes, and like we thought, hold a minute, we have actually got a little bit of time to think about this, we don't have to rush it. So we did take a little more time and went at it a bit harder, but anyway, yeah, Even Up the Score was one of the favourites, particularly from Nick and my perspectives, because it's just great to play. It's great. Great number.
It's an awesome song. It's an. So out of the, so obviously Jokes on You is another. I love that song. I think that's a cracking tune.
Yeah.
Have you got any favourites out of the first 2 albums? Because obviously we haven't got the third album's not been released fully yet. It's only been the singles. Have you
Yeah,
got? Is there a couple of songs in that repertoire that you can't wait to get in and play in the rehearsal rooms with the guys?
yeah, I really enjoy because I mean the first album because it's the kind of it always is for new bands. It's like the thing you kind of you were so tuned into it. We didn't know what it was. We were just going for this what we thought was the right direction and trying to make these songs sound great. Or there's no like it's got to be like this, it's got to be like that. It was a very natural process. So any of those first album songs, like the big hitters on it, I just like Alive is a lot of fun to play, and that's
Mm.
and I Don't Want to Go, which is kind of a Phil Rudd sort of vibe to it as drum wise.
Yeah, it
Which
has
he's
actually.
one of my he's one of my faves. Phil Rudd in the kind of the heyday of AC/DC, there's no better drummer, for playing that kind of that thing.
Yeah,
People think it's easy playing like that basic drum beat, but it's the way you play it, and he swings. That guy swings, and with power,
yeah, and it's also and I've
guys
talked.
are a legend.
He is, and I agree. And I mean, I talk to like the guys that I'm teaching to play and everything like that, and I say to them, some of the things you might think that this groove or whatever is straightforward and easy, but actually, just because it might sound simple, maintaining it in that way is not an easy
Yeah,
thing.
that's it, man.
That's the difficulty.
It's the Keith Richards school of playing. It's like it's what you don't play, it's all. And I think that's certainly from Malcolm and Angus's point of view. I think they and probably their older brothers, they probably knew what they wanted to go for, and they knew that look, there's no room for that many drum fills, or there's going to be no ride cymbal. There's going to be the bass player is going to hold it down on eighth notes.
Yeah,
And it's a very much less is more sort of thing, but it's very difficult and in a rock format where there's a very few set of chords you're gonna like move on from.
yeah,
To have a feel and the amount of brilliant songs. I mean, a lot of it's down to Bon Scott. That guy is
yeah.
out there with the best of them. Maybe the best lyricist, perhaps, in that rock thing. But anyway, yeah. So Phil Rudd.
Yeah, no,
So
it's good.
yeah, I don't want to go. I'll tell you what I should mention is Dale Griffin or Buffin, who was the Mott the Hoople drummer,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and also played in Mott. Now because I had to learn all that stuff for like Joe Elliott's Down and Outs, that is playing rubbed off on me so much. I'd recommend any drummer to go and listen to Mott the Hoople and just tune into Buffin his playing, because the way he leads into the one, I'll let you figure out for yourselves, but go and have a listen. And his phrasing is wonderful, and he makes me want to sort of strut up the road. The way he plays, he's got this kind of wonderful thing, and I've kind of there's a lot of bits and pieces I haven't stolen. I love them so much. They've just become how I apply things, to the Wayward Sons stuff. Like drum fills in eighth notes, not like just kind of following the beat or following the phrasing. But anyway,
No, but mate,
I can't sing that guy's praises enough. Dale
but
Griffin was wonderful.
I think this is a thing, and it's interesting. So, about all of the guys that I've spoken to, over these last few podcasts and things, and everyone has said the same thing. It's always those influences and where they've come from. They do impact on your playing style, and because you hear something, you go, oh, I really want to do that. I really want to play like that, or I really want to include that.
I can't help it. It just happen. You just can't help it. It's happening. I don't even want to do it. I'm just playing a little lick. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
Because I don't like sounding like people. I don't want people to pick out and go, oh look, he likes so and so, or he's just copying blah blah. I really don't want that in my sort of in drumming, because it's a bit obvious, But you still can't help soak up stuff, because obviously there's a lot of human beings who are a lot of brilliant players out there. It's like you're gonna get it.
Yeah, and there are only so many phrases, there are only so many grooves, there are only so many places to play things or whatever, and it's funny because when I was talking to, I know I've mentioned Darby a few times in this interview, but when we were talking earlier on in the week, he's really good friends with Thomas Lang, and obviously he's like massive on presence on the internet and everything with different bits and pieces, and he's an insane drummer, but they learnt their craft together. They grew up, you know, like when they were in their late teens, and they worked alongside each other, and they're you know, still really good friends now, you know. And you think
Yeah.
it's quite interesting how, like, there's this shared journey with some people. And it's like I talked to Bob Richards, who he played with AC/DC for a while, and he's done loads of other stuff like with Asia, and he's played with oh blimey, he played. I'm trying to think of the name of the band. Shy, he played with them. You know,
Mm.
he plays with Man. He's got a plethora of people he's played with, like
Yeah.
yourself. But for him, Cozy Powell was the drummer, you know.
Mm.
And he said, "Oh, I remember seeing him at Newport Centre." He said, "You know," and they were we were watching Rainbow, and he said, I was blown away." And he said, "I just want to do that. That's what I want to do." And it's just interesting, isn't it, where these guys
Yeah.
come into things, and you think, "Yeah, okay, this is
Co-
just amazing." Because I met Bob about 4 or 5 years ago. We had a Cozy Powell tribute in Cirencester, because that's where Cozy Powell was born. So
Mm.
you know they do those heritage blue plaques, and they stick them up on the
Yeah.
wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've got one of those in dedication to him in the middle of town. And anyway, they had this ceremony. Brian May opened the ceremony. Tony Iommi was there. You know, there was all these like huge names in rock sort of thing.
Yeah.
And when we went inside after the plaque had been unveiled and everything, you know what it's like. There was people moving around. It was really cool. And Bob Richards was stood at the back behind Cozy's chrome Stargazer kit, because he owns that.
Does
And
he?
yeah, man, it's amazing. I have to send you a photograph. And there was this other kit just set up next to it. It's just like a Yamaha or a Pearl Export, something like that. Can't remember. I think it might have been a Pearl Export. Anyway, it was just set up next to it, and there was a session guy did a tribute to Cozy. I think he did the 1812 like he used to do, you know, occasionally. He played that, and I got talking to Chris afterwards, and I said to him, "Oh man, can I have a go on your kit?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay, go on." And that's pretty cool. So I started playing, and just started jamming out this groove. And then next to me, I looked over, and there's this almighty going off on these double bass drums. And I looked over there, and there's Bob giving it this amazing like double bass shuffle, and it just sounded so cool. And we jammed. It was a spontaneous thing. Nothing was planned for about 2.5 minutes.
Mm.
And everyone, and you know, you were saying about Gene Simmons stood in the wings, watching
Yeah.
you. Well, when I looked over to my right hand side, Brian May and Tony Iommi were stood in the doorway with a pint of beer, and they were like, "Yeah," and they were in it. And Bob was over. Oh my god! And I tell you what,
dear.
honestly, Phil, if I never ever did anything else drumming wise ever, I would. But that's still such a highlight to me to have.
Damn right.
Oh my god, it was incredible, you know. And Bob and I have been in touch quite a lot since then, you know, because it was videoed, and then it's been put out on YouTube and stuff.
No way.
And
That's
it's
great, man.
Oh man, and it's just amazing, you know.
Did you ever see this kind of sticks that Cozy Powell used?
Well, they're like tree trunks.
Unbelievable. I mean, I once saw a pair in like a pair of sticks in like a glass case somewhere in, I don't know where it was, it might have been in Milan or something. Doesn't matter. I just looked at them going, nah, that cannot be what he used. And then Toby Jepson, someone got in touch with him and said, "Look, I've got a gift for your drummer Phil," and then I got these pair of drumsticks off Toby, and it was a pair of like signature Cozy Powell sticks, and they are unbelievable. I mean,
That's so
if
cool.
you haven't seen them, our fellow drummers just won't believe what he used to play with. It's astonishing.
Yeah,
They're so big, they're so thick. I just can't get my head around it. It's hilarious.
And they're so heavy. It's not. There's so many things, you know.
And he's like, you know, he gets around the kit. You watch the guy play the old live footage stuff, and the guy gets around. And it's like, I mean, those cymbals must have lasted a couple of gigs, because these drumsticks they're outrageous. They really are.
I mean, cymbals don't
I mean,
last.
I use 3As, and that's enough to deal with. You know what I mean? But these things, I don't know. I wouldn't want to put a number on them. They're just flipping. They're like pool cues, man. It's literally. So fair play to Cozy, flipping heck.
Yeah, this is it though, isn't it? And I think it's just all of that is just. But those are the things that we love. I know guitarists might go,
I'm
"I love
afraid to
that."
pick them up. Honestly, they're scary things.
Oh, it's mental. It's so Shotty was talking to me about because he had a back in the 90s when Terrorvision were at their height. He had a deal with Zildjian, and and he said a crash ride would only last him about 3 months when he was touring because
Mm,
it just couldn't take the punishment. Do you
yeah.
find that? Do you find that as well? When you're at the top end of really rehearsed and everything is like super super slick, is it the same sort of thing?
Yeah. They go. I mean, I've used 2002s by Peisty for a long time now, and I've got through a lot of them. You know, they go. They just split. I mean, if you're using 3A sticks and you're playing sort of pretty heavy, energetic sort of music, there comes a time they're gonna go. But I sometimes feel that it's when I've not been at my sort of physical best, and you sort of like lacking in match fitness,
Mm.
and you sort of go at the drums and cymbals in a little bit different way than you would have if you kind of if you played in. So I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
sometimes that's when they go, and
Okay,
you
that's
or you
yeah.
might if you notice funny little dents on your drum head
Oh,
on the
yeah.
tom tom, you're thinking, well, it's near the edge, it's a massive dent, and I think that's like when you're not quite on it,
Mm.
through not necessarily for any fault of your own, just through like just opportunity and. Sometimes things happen quickly, and you all of a sudden you're doing a tour or something. But yeah, I think it's how I learned after a while that I started sort of swishing at cymbals instead of because sometimes you watch drummers they hit through them, and I think
Yeah,
I used to hit through them,
yeah,
and that's when your problems start.
yeah.
Because if you see
Because
anything on slow mo, you can see it's not going to last. It's a piece of metal when it's vibrating, it's going to go.
and you can't. The
Particularly
edge
when it's
won't just
been
won't ta- it won't take it.
yeah, of course. So I started like, and it helps for swinging. Actually, you're playing if you're sort of swishing. You're playing eighths on your ride cymbal. If you're moving your stick like Ringo does, left to right a little bit, as you're playing each note, you get a nice swing from it, but also you're not going and then you can do the same when you crash cymbal. You can flick at your
Mm.
cymbal rather than strike through. So I've been trying to adopt that into playing over the years, and I think that's kind of reduced the rate of cracks on cymbals
Yeah.
and that.
And you do find by playing that technique, like you're saying, that slight flick, actually
Yeah,
the sound reverberates around the cymbal better because it's traveling and using the whole surface area rather than just that strike point, like you were saying. And I
yeah,
think that's the key with it because then you
yeah,
get that really nice, lovely tone that, whatever cymbals you're using will give off.
yeah. I mean, you can still play with kind of emphasis and hard if you want to,
Mm.
but I think it's such a key thing for us drummers is to like hopefully understand at some point get around to trying to be a bit more relaxed. You can still play strongly, but you can be relaxed with it. And a little technique, a little as we're talking about, like flicking the wrist instead of striking through, or you get a better tone, as you say. And I learned this different stick technique in the last few years. And there's an awesome chappie called Mike Vanderhul, and he plays for YNT. He's an absolute sweet dude. And we had a bit of a drum jam a few years ago in London when he had a day off. And he taught me this. He was teaching me this other way of playing, this other stick technique. It's not molar; it's something different, and
Okay.
it's unbelievable. It's brilliant, but it really does like you can hear the stick when you're playing your cymbal, if you like.
Yeah.
Rather, if you clench the stick and hit a cymbal, and then you hold it very loosely and hit the cymbal, you'll hear the stick, if you know what I mean. You can
Yeah.
hear the kind of the click of the stick. So that adds to what you're saying about allowing more tone to come from the drum and the cymbal.
Mm.
If you're holding it too tightly or you got your fingers wrapped around it, you're deadening the stick, but you get a better sound, and you can. It's quite amazing. I can't
And
really
I
explain it without at this moment how this technique is, but it's
yeah, and I know
I
I
guess
know
I
it.
guess the point is just to be relaxed is the key, really. Relaxed posture, relaxed arms, and don't grip too tightly. Just find a
Mm.
way to let the stick move in within your hand.
Yeah, it's giving you that
Is
breathing
probably what I'm
space
getting at.
to do it
Mm,
to do
mm.
its thing and allowing it to be an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean that's I always say that to anyone who starts having drum lessons or whatever. It's like imagine that it's actually a part of you. So when you're
Mm,
playing, the kit yourself is you're one thing. And
yeah.
I've been laughed at before when I say it's like you feel the force between you and the kit. And
Mm.
it's the only way I can describe it. It's that organic connection that you have, which I think is that's the thing that separates drummers from guitarists, because because of the physicality of it. Um,
Yeah.
you know your whole body feels it, but you
Mm.
are when it's right and it's all together as one. You know, you have the force flowing through you. I can't. I think it's the only way I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a really good way to put it. I really understand what you're saying. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, when it hits, sometimes that feeling of when you're playing and everything is just as one, if you like.
Yeah,
And there's this force. It's quite amazing. Yeah,
it's an
I
incredible.
think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing, and I think
Mm.
whatever the
Yeah.
connection, whatever that connection is, and whatever your style, I think you know you can find something, and you come off it, and you think, wow, that just blew the roof off, you know, and I think that's just fantastic. I really want to do that again, and it's that,
Yeah.
and that's what we want. It's that energy, you know, that
Mm-mm. Well, you're connecting. I mean, your mind and your body is connected together, and you're kind of creating this sound. But you also then when
mm,
you're connecting with the musicians you're with, and
and
then
that's
also, luckily enough, if you're lucky enough to be playing in front of people as well,
and
it's a wonderful thing when it sometimes, as you say, when it hits, when there's that flow of energy and that thing happens. It is one of the best feelings in the world, I think.
it's incredible. It is an
Yeah.
incredible thing, and
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've been privileged enough to play with, you know, be in bands and stuff like that, and I've played with some really talented guys, and you know, and just something happens, you know, and there's a spark or something, like you saying about when you guys got together when Wayward Sons first started, in that rehearsal room, and you can't explain what it is, but there is just something there, and
Mm.
that unites everyone that's
It's
in that
called it's
room.
called
Oh,
drummers.
I think, mate, that's what it is. Maybe it's unique to us. Maybe that's what it is.
It's all down to us, Kelvin. That's it. Nothing
Ah,
else.
that's what it is,
Hey, do
Phil.
you know,
Thank you.
talking of talent and stuff, and
Yes, man.
I have to, I don't know if you were planning to or knew about it, but I play with a band called Spear of Destiny as well,
I
and
do know that, which is very
I
cool.
did know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
that's
talk. Let's talk about Spear of Destiny, because that, you
because
know.
yeah, I mean, like Kirk Brandon is the main man of the
Mm,
whole thing, and he's a wonderful chap. I love him to bits, and I got involved with that band probably 2015, and I did a demo with him for a friend of ours called Liz Westwood, and she used to be in a band called Westworld in the 80s. And they had a big
oh my
hit
god, I loved
stuff.
Westworld.
Do you know Sonic Boom Boy is the
That's
single, right?
such a what a tune.
Yeah, so Liz is a great singer, and she'd been writing with Kirk, and he saw me play a gig, and I was happened to be playing some free numbers, and
Nice.
just this kind of little thing that happened for a few months, and he was like, it happened to be his favorite band, and he was like, oh, you really got it down, that was fantastic, and I was like, oh, thank you, man, and we stayed in contact, and we did these demos with Liz, and then 9 months after that, he called me and said, look, we've got to change drummers in Spirit Destiny. Do you want to have a jam? Do you want to have a practice? So we had a practice, a few days later, and that night he called me saying, can you do it? Do you want to do it? I was like, yeah, of course, man. I was absolutely, blown away by the opportunity, let alone to, have a jam and then get the
Yeah,
call that night. That was really, really amazing. And
that's amazing. That is awesome. That's so
yeah,
cool.
it's been a fab experience. It's a very enjoyable band. I mean, it's so funny. It's just like a bundle of laughs being that band. It's everyone's into the music and serious about it, but it's a lot of messing about and a lot of fun.
But I think that's
But
it.
there's a ton of great music, and it's just, I mean, I think I learned 70 songs in the first 2 years of being in that band, and it's quite a lot, but it's wonderful songs, and Kirk is just an underrated songwriter, and he's one of the best of his era, I'd say, without a shadow of a doubt. He's a very, very intelligent young man, and
Yeah.
he was back then, of course. Switched on and pretty daring with some of his lyric and some of his direction he's going in, and he did get shunned by some radio, some BBC programs. They didn't play Spirit of Destiny or Theatre of Hate because of what the songs are about. So he's a bit of a maverick in his own right, but he's kept at it. whole through the grunge period when that kind of music was not really doing that great, and
Mm.
he kind of it's had different guises over the years and everything. But the current lineup, apart from myself, has been together for between 12 and 15 years, so it's pretty settled.
So it's really cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I've like done a couple of re-record albums with them just to celebrate and go and tour those old albums. But we also made a brand new album with them a couple of years back, and we're going to do another one next year. So
Oh, amazing! That's really cool.
yeah, so but I absolutely adore playing that. I really cherish it, and I'd say any listeners who want to go and check out the old albums. I mean, the first album, Grapes of Wrath, is really unusual and a fantastic album. I really highly recommend that. And Chris Bell, who now plays for Theatre of Hate, strangely, plays drums on that, and he does some excellent things on that record. But then the lineup changed. The bass player remained, but they had a new lineup in. But the guy they got on drums is a guy called Dolphin Taylor, who was in Tom Robinson's band.
Oh, okay.
Now, which is 2468 Motorway is the hit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I recommend that album. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the first Tom Robinson album. Dolphin Taylor's drumming is real. The guy is just on the next level as well. I mean, I know we say every drummer we've spoken about is brilliant. He's fantastic. I learned a lot from him, and he played on the next at least 2 Spirit of Destiny albums, which had been One Eye Jacks and World Service. And there's a lot of big numbers on those albums, that were the singles and everything. His drumming is brilliant. I recommend that. I mean, it's the production is of that day. I really like the production of those records. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think they're fab. So yeah, I recommend them. The 80s Spear stuff as well.
Yeah, cool. But that was
brilliant songs, brilliant playing.
Because there was a massive movement of all of that. When you think about like obviously you had Fields and Nephilim and you had the Mission, and there was a lot of that sort of stuff going on. And I remember this kid at school who I was friends with. He was a really lovely guy, but he had a long green Parker coat, and he actually had a big Spear of Destiny patch sewn on the back of his coat.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And of course, I was into my Guns N' Roses, so I remember having the Appetite for Destruction on the back of my denim jacket, and I remember we used to just like rib each other a little bit here and there, but we had this mutual respect for what we were into, because it was still cool to be into your thing, And there's a lot to be said for that. And I think it's still great that bands like you're saying about Spear of Destiny, and we're talking about others that are still regularly listened to now. And I think it's just there's not this just kind of forgotten about thing. I think there's a lot more appreciation for what's come before.
Yeah.
Than people looking for what's coming next, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, Kirk's got a lot of like devoted fans. It's pretty amazing. Because people still he goes out and plays Theatre of Hate shows. He does some acoustic shows, and there was a band he was in even before Theatre of Hate called The Pack, and that the fans and the kind of followers will go and see this stuff time after time, because it's just they believe in him, they believe in the music, and quite rightly, the guy's special. It's all about the content and the quality, and it's like the kind of genuine article.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those things last the test of time. And you're talking, I suppose he's had like a 42-year career.
Yeah.
And it's still super strong. It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to have that. And I think that's just it's a testament to the material. It's a testament to the artist, the music, whatever you want to categorize it as. It's a testament to that. I remember seeing we were talking about Gene Simmons and stuff earlier on, and I saw an interview with Paul Stanley. This was just before they did their End of the World tour, which I saw them in Birmingham, and he was saying
it's probably not finished, has it?
No, well, it's not going to, because I can't imagine.
They're never gonna chuck it in, are they?
No, I don't think they will. But it was he was being slammed by somebody for not running around the stage. And he said, yeah, but I'm 65 years old and you're expecting me to run round like I was when I was 20. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I can't physically do that anymore. I can still do what I need to do, but you've got to understand that, you know, I can't manage that. And I just thought it was a really interesting and quite honest for him, because, you know, he's obviously got the ego that goes with it. I don't mean that in a horrible way, because he's you know, but it's that, you know, I think he's just understanding that I've got to be a bit more reserved than perhaps I was however many years ago, you know, just because of that's the
Yeah.
nature of things, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. I mean, we're not, you know, not everybody is built like Mick Jagger or Iggy Pop, you know.
Oh my god,
Those
no.
guys can still, you know, run around. But I mean, Iggy Pop is like, that's quite a limp, you know, if you see him walking. But
But it almost,
yeah, you
I
know,
think,
it's not like Gene Simmons. They're wearing platform shoes for Christ's sakes. You know, you got
oh
to
my god,
give the guy a bit of a break. You know,
you have to. I mean, I
wearing a
still,
massive outfit with a load of makeup. Fair play. You know.
yeah, I saw. I don't know if you might not have seen it, but there was a Phil Collin from Leopard got asked to go on. He did a guest appearance with Kiss. This must have been earlier on in the year, and he dressed up in all of the everything and came on, and he was playing. I think he played Detroit Rock City with them. And I was like, wow, it was just amazing to see that. You know, it was
Mm.
wicked. I think it might have been in Las Vegas or something like that. They did it when they were doing a show
Huh.
or something. And he rocks
Yeah.
up. Because Kiss don't do that. They don't usually have guest appearances of
Yeah.
anybody.
That's a good point. You never see that. Yeah.
No. So it was quite unusual, but really, really good to see. It was amazing. So we've kind of talked about lots of stuff this morning, which has been awesome. But one thing I haven't spoken to you about is your kit setup and preferences to how your
Mm.
layout. Really, have you got any preferences that you like when you're playing live, or is that different from when you're rehearsing, or have you got
Well,
something
I
different from?
just uh, I just fell into like in Tokyo Dragons. At that point, I kind of got into the kind of one up, two down thing, and like a big bass drum. I got, you know, I was listening to loads of drummers. You know, from your Buddy Rich thing to like Ian Pace or
Mm,
obvious people like Bonzo and that. You know, so I got into that kind of. I was listening to bands like Sly and the Family Stone. I mean, that's a great band to check out for grooves and everything like that. Great sounds. I just got into old big cymbals and that in the 90s or noughties and big drums and put together this sort of Frankenstein kit. And I just sort of, after time went by, and depending what I needed, I kind of ended up with two tom toms up front and then two floor toms. And I kind of stuck. That's my favorite way of playing. I mean, everything's around the second and third tom, if you know what I mean. If you had like your
mm.
standard sort of 4 or 5 piece thing. So the extra tom to the left, the extra floor tom, that kind of gives you more variety and everything. But you're still playing off those three, the snare and the two toms for the most part,
Mm.
if you know what I mean. That's your core drum kit.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like having the ride cymbal closer rather than having a couple of toms on the bass drum. So I like them set up to the side, the hi hat side.
yeah.
You know, but yeah, I'm comfortable with that really. But I like big bass drums and I like the old bass drums that are shallow. I'm not into so much the sounds of the modern what's everyone calls it kick drum now, but I like to call it a bass drum. But
It's the same thing. I think this is where the
and
electric.
now it's a thud, and it's like a very very bottom endy
Mm,
experience sometimes with bass drums and miking of bass drums. But I really resonate with the go and put on a Faces album or go and put on yeah, like a Motley Hoople, whatever it is, you know, you can hear the bass drum a bit. You know, it's like it's part of the kit. Or if you can listen to Buddy Rich, how he tunes his kit, it's like it's snare, tom, bass drum, and it all makes sense together. Whereas I think the modern sound is has become more separated, and which works as well. Don't get me wrong, but you know, the old bass drums are shallower
mm-hmm.
generally. There's a different frequency there, a different tone. So I like that really. I like that. A lot of modern sound engineers kind of moan when you haven't got very much dampening inside your bass drum, you know.
Yeah,
But I like it to have a bit of resonance to it. Otherwise, it's just what is that down there? I don't know what it is. You know, I need to feel it a bit.
yeah, yeah. No, that's
You know?
fair enough. And I think it's we. I can't remember who I was talking to. I was talking. It was Bob. It was Bob actually, Bob Richards, and he was saying about um, sound engineers and because he likes he's got a certain tone that he likes for his bass drum, and he was
Mm,
saying how he like way he likes his heads tightened and stuff like that. And he was doing this
yeah.
gig with the band he's playing with now, Buck and Evans, and they They were doing this show, and the sound engineer was a youngish guy, and he said, "But you've got no hole in your bass drum. Where can I stick the mic?" And he said, "You won't need that." And it's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean I won't
Brilliant.
need it?" You won't need it. And he's like, "But yeah, I will, because I need
You
to mic
won't need
because I
that.
need
That's
you
hilarious.
won't because you need to mic it." And he's like, "No, you won't need it." Anyway, they did the sound check, and the kid came up to him afterwards and went, "You're right, I didn't need it. That sounds
Wow.
amazing." Yeah.
I'm assuming it wasn't a big place. It must have been like a club, right?
It was a club show, but it was just interesting how he said,
Yeah.
it's like he said, "Yeah, you won't need that. Not in here. You just won't need it." I
I
just
used to
love
have
the
this. I used to know this sound engineer who'd mic my bass drum around the batter side, put the mic
okay,
where the pedal is.
yeah,
Because the
different,
same thing, I didn't have a hole on the front at the time, and I didn't want a hole on the front. I was like, no, this is the way it sounds.
yeah,
26-inch bass drum, like it or leave it. And he was like, oh, I'm gonna mic it around. I didn't understand why. I still thought it's probably sound good at the front, but anyway.
yeah. It's funny,
So
isn't it?
well done, Bob, for figuring that out.
Yeah, I agree, and it's interesting. And what I'll do when I've got his podcast out, you'll have to have a little listen because he talks about how he tunes his heads, and it's really
Mm.
interesting. It's really
I,
really
I, I saw
interesting.
him. I saw him play a gig in London. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember who it was with, but I knew of him because I saw him playing that AC/DC video, and
Yeah,
I was like, oh, this guy's cool. He's had a good sound. I liked what he did. I was like, yeah,
mm.
he's one of them old style drummers. I liked it a lot.
He's such a lovely guy as well. Such a lovely
Oh,
guy.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
a friend of mine, funny enough, is friendly with him too, and was telling me about him a year or two ago. He was
Mm.
hanging out with him a couple of times. So yeah, all good things about Bob Richards.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good man, and he was telling me stories about Lemmy and hanging out with Lemmy, and you just think, oh my god, you've just done some such cool things. And when you mentioned the AC/DC video, and he was telling me about that, he said that was the most surreal experience ever, and
I
how
bet.
that all happened. He said it was just incredible, but great, and really good to talk to him about that and hear him
I
talking
thought he
about it.
looked
And
the part as well. I thought
yeah, man.
his kit had a black drum kit and like same cymbals and blah blah. He looked the part. I thought it was just like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I think he fitted in really well. I think he
Yeah.
looked. You're right. He looked the part. It was good. But he was, yeah, it was funny. He's just got some funny things. Like I said, when the podcast is out, you'll have to have a listen, Phil. I'll send you a copy
Thank you.
because it's well worth a listen. There's some great road stories in there, and
Excellent.
some lovely little gems. Interestingly enough, he's now doing quite a lot of teaching in school and stuff as well, which is really cool, really good down in
Mm,
Wales.
mm,
And
mm.
so he was like, "So, mate, can I come up and see your studio at some point? Because I need to build one in my back garden, and I quite like what I see." And it's like, "You want to come and see me?" It's like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "Oh, it's only an hour on the bike. Let's do it." And I thought, "Yeah, okay. At some point, we'll do
Oh,
that."
brilliant.
Yeah, what that was such a compliment. I was blown away. I was quite touched by that, actually. To be fair, so
Great.
yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing. So have you got? I know we've kind of slightly digressed a little bit. Have we gone along here with your drum kit wise? Now, what are you
Oh
using
yeah.
as your What are you using as your what's your preferred make at the moment? Have you got one? You probably have, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's the thing I'm using at the moment, which I picked up a few years ago, is a Ludwig Vistalite, and it was built in 1976, and it's a candy cane. So for those who haven't seen a picture of it or someone similar, it's pretty rare. It's kind of a helix stripes. I guess it's amber and cherry are the two different kind of cut pieces of color perspex. In like a helix kind of wrap. So it's pretty stunning thing to look at. I saw it once. I saw it on eBay, and I was like, oh my word! Because I was looking out for a kit. I wanted a kit with I wanted a Ludwig with 24-inch bass drum, and it had two floor toms and it had two rack toms. I was like, oh man, right, I'm having that. And I went to see it, and it took me a while to get hold of the guy actually. And then I finally got hold of him and said, look, can I come and see it? And I arrived at his place, and he took the first tom out of the case, and I was like, I'm having this. It was mint. It's just a beautiful drum kit. Didn't really care what it sounded like, to be honest. I was like, I'm just going to give it a whirl. And as it turns out, it sounds better than I had hoped it would. And same with the engineers who've mic'd it. They said, I love that drum kit. Because I had things about Vistalites. It's like people love or hate them. And
Yeah.
when I started here, started speaking to more engineers about it, and they're like, no, most people really like it actually. And I don't know if it's because it's not a flat inside like you would have a piece of perspex. This has got like a groove where the things are joined together. I have no idea, but I figured that it might help this, like the sound being, like it kind of controls it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just guessing. But anyway, it's a great sounding kit. It looks brilliant. I mean, everyone wants to have a look at it. You know what I mean? It's cool as hell.
Nice.
So it's a privilege to play a great kit like that. I'm fairly confident at tuning drums, so I think I get a good sound out of it.
Nice.
So that's like big sizes though. It's like 13 and 14 rack toms and 16 and 18 floor toms, and the bass drum is 24, and I've got like a Black Beauty 6.5 as the snare drum, and then all the cymbals are 2002 Pisces and 20-inch crashes and mediums, and
nice.
Big ride, big set of hats and all that.
Yeah. So you get
3A sticks. So yeah, it's good fun. A lot of fun to play. I've got a cool Mapex kit as well back at home, but I used to use that in Spirit Destiny, but I'm going to use a different kit. I'm going to borrow a kit off somebody else for that gig.
That's fair enough. Yeah, Mapex are nice drums actually. I like Mapex drums. Yeah, I use them.
I was well impressed. Yeah.
Yeah,
I got it's an Orion set. I got it for free. I was very, very lucky. It's brilliant. I mean, it really is brilliant.
Yeah, they've got a lovely tone to them. They really have.
Yeah.
I've got my kit's made by an American company called D-Drum, which is based in Tampa. And the reason I got it is because it's got triggers built into the shells, so you can run it with silent stroke heads. Like
the mesh heads.
Yeah, so you can run it with that, or you can run it with just normal standard like power stroke heads, whatever you want to put on it.
It's the both worlds, isn't it?
Mate, it's amazing.
Well done.
Yeah,
well done, D-Drum.
It sounds epic in here. So, because I went to the London Drum Show, about 40. It must have been about 4 years.
You're brave.
Yeah, but it was noisy. But I actually
that's what I mean.
I actually went to see Jason Sutter do a workshop. That's really the reason for going. He blew me away. It was really cool talking about him and his session work and stuff like that. But I was genuinely looking for something. I didn't want to have a Roland in the studio for teaching, because I wanted to have a full kit for playing experience. It's because I didn't want anyone coming in who was learning to just be playing on little pads or whatever, because it's not the same. And
of course
there was nothing like it out on the market. And anyway, I ended up going to this stand, and this guy I was talking to, and he said, "Oh, well, have a little play on this, see what you think." And the kit sounded amazing, like through headphones. And I was like, "Wow, okay, how are you doing that?" And then he sort of talked through, and it was really in its infancy at that time, and they hadn't. The company had only just been and brought out a module. That was all they got out, nothing else, and they were still waiting for, it's still like in its early stages. They were still trying to get money, from people to push this product out. Anyway, they finally got it to market, and I bought it, and it's just incredible. But it's a long bass drum that I've got, so it's like a cannon,
right.
But it's only a 20-inch bass drum, but it's because it's longer, you've got a really lovely depth to it, so the sound really travels, and it looks amazing on stage. I'll have to send you a photograph. It looks stunning on stage,
right.
And but it sounds great as well. It just sounds really nice. And I've actually gigged it with the triggers and run it through a brain rather than having normal drum heads on, and it just sounds amazing through the PA. So
wow.
Yeah, well chuffed with that. So
happy days.
Yeah, it is happy days, mate. And I think it's cool how stuff happens like that. Like you said, when you kind of come across things, I like all that. Yeah. It's wicked. It's really cool. So obviously you've got a busy schedule ahead of you, getting ready for these shows with Wayward Sons, which is really cool. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, fella, because you've probably got other stuff.
Do you know what I've got? There's one other thing. There's another point I have to make.
Yeah, please
do. It's someone else I played with who's, I think, one of the most talented people I've ever played with, and never gets the break. And his name's Pete Shoulder.
Okay.
And he was in a band that kind of called Winterville. They're a little bit like Soundgarden. Anyhow, I got involved with Pete in this band called The Union, which featured Luke Morley from Thunder.
I've heard of the Union. I
Yeah,
have.
and
In
I did the
fact, I've
first
heard.
album. I did the first album with them. I think it was about 2010. I got invited to do that, which is brilliant. But
Wow.
Pete is this guy that Luke had found or got in touch with or hooked up with, and Pete was a brilliant songwriter.
Yeah.
B had a fantastic singing voice, like really, he's got the kind of Chris Cornell pipes, but I'm not saying he's
Yeah.
like him, but he's got that ability. And the guy can really play guitar. He can play keys. He can play pedal steel. I mean, he's flipping got everything. But he's
Wow.
above all else, he's a great writer and a great singer.
Yeah.
And
That's
poor
cool.
Pete just doesn't quite get the breaks that he deserves. He's done well the last few years, and then this just new thing came in and blew everyone out of the water. The COVID thing. But
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
he's he's in a band with Brian Tickey. He's played with all the kind of big
Oh my
heavy
word,
rock
yeah. And
acts.
do you know, I'd love to speak to him because I really liked his stuff he did with the Dead Daisies. Amazing,
But
amazing.
yeah. So not to go, I don't want to go away from talking about Pete. I did a solo tour of him once, like 5 years
Oh,
ago, and it
cool.
was just a three piece, just like his own stuff, and he wrote these great songs. We some of the best shows I've ever played. Like these couple of these gigs were great, and then he just got kicked in the nuts again by this idiotic management team, and these pair of idiots who kind of left him in the lurch. And but I just always want to put a shout out to Pete Shoulder because he's a sweet dude. I love him, and he's one of
Fair
the greatest
play.
talents I've ever been involved with.
Awesome.
I've been lucky. I've played with some, Toby, Joe, Kirk, all these people, but Pete's up there with all those people. But he doesn't
That's
have the
no the
doesn't have the
kudos.
breaks.
Yeah, well, I know. I think that's unfair. There's, again, I was talking to so a friend of mine, Brett, who is I've known for years. He's actually the band he's with. They're still the same band, but they've changed their name, and they've been doing some co-writing with Toby actually for their new
Right,
album, which is due to come out, and
good.
which is and again same thing. They just have never got the break they quite deserved. They toured with Thunder, and they've done some stuff with Jules Holland. They did some stuff with Feeder, but it just never quite got their foot through the door. Um,
Yeah.
and they're just such a really lovely bunch of guys. And
Mm.
yeah, I always, they're always great. Whenever I see them, it's like, oh, how's it going? And it's just awesome. And I wish they had the opportunity because my God, they deserve it because they worked hard enough. I mean, they would slap in a van from
Tough out
Cornwall,
there, man. Tough out
up
there.
to yeah, man. They'd come up from the southwest, do a show in London, go back home again, go to work the following day. They really grafted, just really grafted, but never quite got what they needed. And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. It
Man,
is.
it reminds me of back in the day.
But it's
Trying to
what you
keep
did.
up a job, keep up a job, and like playing shows, and then just roll
Mm.
into work sort of half cut the next day. You know, no sleep. Where that's what you got to do when you're really pushing hard.
Yeah,
No one's there to do it for you. You got to do it yourself. Just
yeah,
keep pushing.
and it's how hard you want it, isn't it?
Yeah,
It depends
yeah,
on what that drive is. So,
yeah.
and you
What
got and it,
you get out what you put in this world.
yeah, absolutely.
Not it doesn't always work exactly how you want it to or expect it to, but you know, it all means something at the end of the day. It'll come around. Someone like Pete, I pray that there's something, the right thing's going to happen for him. But it doesn't have to be fame and fortune. It's just like the right thing. But I think
Yeah, and
he's onto something at the moment. I've seen what he's doing. He's onto something.
that's
So
cool. It's recognition. I think that's what is. It's about being appreciated for what you bring. That's what it's
or if
about.
you, yeah, I mean that goes a long way. But it's also being able to sustain
Mm.
whatever musical project you're doing. That's if you believe it's got the legs and you want to drive it forward and keep at it. That's that I think that's enough, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh no, I agree.
Hopefully it'll bring you some ability, stability.
Yeah,
That's the key. But anyway, man, you know what I mean. It's just
I do know. I do know.
it's life,
Yeah,
isn't it? Eh? It's
it
just
is
life.
life. Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, one door closes, another one opens, and I think we've got to think like that. We've got
Yeah.
to think like that. Phil, mate,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure this morning. I've
Thanks,
loved
Kelvin.
it.
The very same for me.
Well, thank you. It's been great, and I love talking drums. Hopefully, we can hook up another time. That'd be cool. Like
Yeah.
I said to you earlier on, I can't wait to see you at Download next year. Um, maybe if we're allowed to, if we're not having, and everything's okay, maybe we could have a beer together. I'd love that. That'd
That'd
be
be good, wouldn't
amazing,
it? Let's do that.
mate.
I've
I'd
always
love
got
to.
time for those kind of things.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be,
All
I'd be,
right.
I'd be game for that. But best of luck with the tour, and
Thanks.
and everything like that. And I'll send a message out to Toby, tell him I've spoken to you, and
Okay.
everything. But it's been awesome. It really has been. So
Cheers, Kelvin.
thank you, buddy. I really, really appreciate it. I'm just gonna
You are so welcome.